In the beginning, God made everything. Light on day 1, sky and water on day 2, land and the first seeds pushing through soil on day 3, the sun, the moon, a sky full of stars that would take light billions of years to cross on day 4, every creature that breathes and swims and runs on days 5 and 6. And then he stopped. Not because he was tired, not because he ran out of material. He stopped because the work was complete. And when work is complete, you don't keep going. You rest. You look at what you made. You let it be what it is. The text says he rested on the 7th day and he blessed it. He called it holy. In all of creation week, every light, every creature, every spinning galaxy, only one thing received that word: holy. The 7th day. This is not a story about a rule for Saturday. This is not a story about a Jewish tradition that expired. This is not a story about a commandment you either follow or don't. This is a story about a rhythm that was written into the universe before a single human being ever took a breath, and why that rhythm might be the thing you are most desperately missing. Stay with me. There is something in Genesis chapter 2 that almost nobody notices. On day 6, God forms Adam from the dust and breathes life into him. Day 6 ends. The sun goes down. Adam opens his eyes for the first time, and it is the 7th day, his very first full day of existence. Before he has planted a single seed, named a single animal, done a single thing, is a day of rest. He did not earn the rest. He did not work his way to it. He woke up into it. Rest was not the reward at the end of Adam's week. Rest was the foundation at the beginning of his life. And if you miss that, you miss almost everything. Centuries later, a man named Moses leads 2 million former slaves out of Egypt. These people have not had a day off in generations. In Egypt, there was no Sabbath. There was no 7th day. There was only the quota. Bricks, bricks, and more bricks, or the overseer's rod across your back. God leads them into the wilderness, and he begins teaching them, one lesson at a time, what it means to be free people. And one of the first lessons is this: every morning, bread will appear on the ground. Manna. Collect what you need for the day, not more. Trust that tomorrow's will come tomorrow. But on the 6th day, collect double, because on the 7th day, nothing falls. Some of them don't believe it. They go out on the 7th day looking for manna, and the ground is bare. And God asks Moses a question that lands like a stone in still water. How long will you refuse to keep my commandments? He is not angry about bread. He is heartbroken over something deeper. These people have been trained to believe that if they stop, they will starve. That rest is a luxury they cannot afford. That to survive, you must never stop moving. And God is trying to teach them that this is exactly backwards. The Hebrew word for Sabbath is Shabbat, which simply means to cease, to stop, not to collapse, not to give up, to deliberately, intentionally stop. And there is another Hebrew word used in Exodus, a word that appears only once in the entire Torah to describe God himself. In chapter 31, God says that on the 7th day he rested and was nephash. The root word is nephesh, the Hebrew word for soul. God rested and was resouled. He was not depleted and refilled. He is God. He does not deplete. But the text is telling us something enormous, that rest is not the absence of work. Rest is where the soul goes to remember what it is. If you have been reading along and thinking, yes, but I have too much to do, the bills don't pay themselves, the world doesn't slow down for anyone, then you are in exactly the right place. Because that is what this channel is about. The ancient words that speak directly into the life you are actually living. If that matters to you, take a second and subscribe. We do this every week, and we are just getting started. Here's what most people miss about Jesus and the Sabbath. The Pharisees of his day had taken the idea of rest and turned it into an obstacle course. By the time of Jesus, there were 39 categories of work forbidden on the Sabbath, and within each category, sub-rulings and exceptions and counter-exceptions. You could not carry an object in a public space. You could not tie certain kinds of knots. A scholar named Rabbi Akiva once said you could not even look in a mirror on the Sabbath in case you were tempted to pull out a gray hair, which would be harvesting. They had taken the gentlest gift in the Torah and made it into a burden. And then Jesus walked into a synagogue on the Sabbath and healed a man with a withered hand. The Pharisees were furious, and Jesus said something they never forgot. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. He was not dismissing the Sabbath. He was recovering it. He was saying, you have this exactly wrong. The day was never meant to serve the rule. The rule was always meant to serve the person. The Sabbath exists for you. The Hebrew word menuha, which you find in Psalm 23, he leads me beside still waters, is the word for this kind of rest. It is not inactivity. It is not laziness. It is a settledness, a peace so deep that even when the world is moving, you are not shaken by it. Still waters in the middle of a rushing world. That is what the seventh day was always offering. Not an empty day, a full one, full of the right things. And now, this is where it gets remarkable. There is a detail in the creation account that theologians have been discussing for 2,000 years. Every other day in Genesis ends the same way. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day, the second day, the third day. 6 times, that phrase closes the day like a door. On the seventh day, it doesn't close. There is no, and there was evening and there was morning, the seventh day. The seventh day in Genesis has no end. The ancient rabbis noticed this and said, the seventh day is still open. We are still inside it. And the writer of the book of Hebrews picks up that thread and pulls it all the way into the 1st century, writing these words, there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. Not remained, remains. Present tense, the rest is still there. Think about the person who cannot sleep at 2 in the morning. You know this person. You may be this person, lying in the dark, running through everything undone, every email unanswered, every conversation you handled wrong, every bill and deadline and fear and regret cycling through the mind like a machine that cannot find the off switch. That is not a productivity problem. That is a Sabbath problem. The soul has forgotten how to stop. Adam's first full day was rest, not because he had earned it, because rest is not the reward at the end of your effort. It is the foundation underneath it. You do not rest when the work is done. The work is only possible because you rest. God did not rest on the seventh day because he was finished with creation. He rested because he wanted to show you, from the very first page of Scripture, what a human life was designed to look like. You were not designed to go without stopping. You were not designed to measure your worth by how much you produce. You were not made for the quota system. You were made for the seventh day. 3 things to take with you. First, rest is not laziness. It is obedience. The same God who said, love your neighbor, said, stop and rest. Both are commands. Both are serious. Treating one as optional while keeping the other is not faithfulness. It is a selective reading of a generous God. Second, the Sabbath reveals what you actually trust. If you cannot stop working because you believe everything will fall apart without you, that is not a schedule problem. That is a faith problem. The manna will be there on the seventh day. It always has been. Third, and this is the one I want you to carry, Adam's first day was rest. You did not have to earn your way into God's world. You were born into a world he had already finished. The work is not all yours. The weight is not all yours. There is a rest that remains, ancient and unhurried and wide open, and it has your name on it. Which of these hit you hardest today? The idea that rest is obedience, or the idea that you were born into a finished world? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. The seventh day is still open. Step into it.